trust, you go, that's their account. Like, with Stuart, I mean, I trust exactly what Stuart said, but you've got the evidence in front of you as well. Yeah. And you go, there's no, I mean, sadly, we couldn't show all the stuff on the television. Because it was too horrific to show. It's there, the evidence there, but it's too...
You know the difference between catching yourself in a physical attack or beating or anything like that, don't you? It's pretty personal, you know if you catch yourself.
Yeah.
People say, did you catch yourself? Well, no. Yeah. You definitely know the difference.
What about you? I mean, there must be something with you.
It's one of the weirdest things.
Yeah.
That would probably... One of the things that sticks, vivid in my mind is when we were doing, I think it was Clerkenwell House of Detention, and you got that cut on the back of your head or something, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And one of the parapsychologist guys, it wasn't Kieran, put it down to perhaps it was a fly.
Yeah, a fly. Might have hit me.
I certainly don't remember any 7-pound flies flying around with a knife.
Kamikaze fly with a knife, little flick blade.
That was a bit strange. That was a bit strange. Thank you very much. And then we had the incident at Pengusick Castle, where you were outside.
Oh yes.
And you heard the footsteps running towards you on the gravel.
Crying enough, yes.
That was weird.
I have to admit that was with Rick. And I remember there was one particular point where we were that scared we ran and hid in our car, and Rick had the window open slightly, and I said to him, "Shut the window, we can get in." Professional ghost hunter. Yeah. Shut the window. That spirit that's just walked through a wall will not get into the car. Yeah. But that was scary because again we actually heard the footsteps.
You could hear it on
of
camera,
something running, and it was almost that moment. Like the Evil Dead series where the guys, the thing's going through the woods, and he goes, "Ah!" It was almost like we were sitting there going, "Ah!" It was just getting louder and louder, and we were waiting for something huge to burst through the door and go, but it obviously didn't.
Very good.
Well, it could have done.
Yeah. No, but that was there were a couple of weird incidents. One of the again, this is a personal thing now, and as I mentioned before on a previous debate show, I'm not one of these people that will tell people that I've experienced something if I'm not sure that I've experienced it, because there's no point. If I've got a doubt in my mind, then there's no point telling anybody else, because no reason to it. But when I was at Peterborough Museum, strangest thing happened. I was in the room upstairs. It's got Napoleonic artifacts in it and things like that. I was sat there talking to somebody that was on an investigation with us. He was sat to my right. He had a long black sleeve jacket on, and I was turned away and I was speaking to him, and I turned back. And as I turned back, I swear there was a naked arm from the shoulder down, bent at the elbow, probably about 6 or 7 inches away from my face. And I can't explain that whatsoever.
And did it just go? When you saw it?
It just vanished. It just vanished. Yeah, it just vanished.
See, this is the one thing that gets me with a lot of sightings. And you can all sort of see, and I'm not talking about corner of the eye phenomenon, I'm talking about actual sightings like that. Why is it only there for a split second? I just don't understand it.
Well, I've got a kind of a theory regarding that, if you want to hear it.
I'll tell you what, can you email in and let us know about
if you want to hear this theory?
No, go on.
Okay, most of the time when people experience ghosts, the furthest thing from the mind is actually experiencing a ghost, seeing a ghost. Okay, you can do mundane things like hanging washing out, working at your desk, that kind of thing. Yeah. And that's when your mind, I think, enters a kind of weird, altered state, which
We've
enables
just got
you
to enter another state
Okay.
of commercials, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes to finish that story. Join us in a few minutes. Oh, hello, sorry, I just fell asleep then. Phil was talking in the break. I'm sorry, Phil. Carry on, you were telling me about you hanging out the washing.
Yeah, no. Why? You mentioned why do ghosts kind of vanish after a split second or so of seeing them, and I was just explaining that the possible theory is that when you're doing something like mundane, you're not even thinking about ghosts at all, spirits. Your mind perhaps enters an altered state, which enables you to perhaps see past a dimension or into a dimension that you shouldn't really be seeing in the first instance. And as soon as you kind of realise what you're looking at, in that split second you realise, hang on a second, that shouldn't be there. Your mind kicks back into action, kicks back into worrying, doing all the calculations like everyday life would do, and it vanishes because you've come out of that state that your mind needs to be in to see them.
Is that possibly going on the thing about, I mean, we had it before when we had David in from Blackpool, who was talking about the vibration thing going on. And and I've looked more and more into this vibration thing because although I don't really still understand it, it's something that I really want to investigate more. But is that kind of like you've got this vibrationary thing going on, and there's different levels of vibration that we're all working on? Is that kind of maybe sometime your vibration, because you're in this sort of specific state, almost a hypnotic state, going through your day. Your mind isn't engaged as much in doing what you're doing because you've done it every day. And then you can slip into another vibration.
Because we've all done it, haven't we? We've all been sat there writing away, and you just kind of drift off, and the next minute you're like, "What was I doing?" And you carry on doing what you were doing. Is that the time that you kind of are able to access those perhaps different frequencies of vibrations or dimensions or whatever? Is that when you can do it?
Sorry, I just drifted off then.
What did you see? Did you see any ghosts?
I was there. I was with a legion of French shaking soldiers because the British were coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the minute your mind makes, I agree with you. Like the minute you come to and it's gone.
Because they do, don't they? Most ghost sightings, unless you're really, really lucky, only last a portion of a second or a portion of time.
But they do seem to almost happen. This could be something in there because a lot of them seem to happen when people aren't specifically looking for them. I mean, even on investigations, we get more sightings from the crew or the team or whatever, whether it be alive, whether it be anything televised, or whether it just be an investigation we're on. Is when people aren't specifically, they're either setting things up or they're walking. I mean, the best apparition I've ever seen, or I ever thought I saw, was of a lady dressed in what I thought was a white wedding dress, walking through a door. The door was open, and there was no one else there. But I wasn't filming. I was just walking from. We were setting up in one place, and I was walking back to to get, I think probably to get Yvette or something. But it was nothing to do with filming I was doing, and my mind was just on other things. And that's when I saw something, and apparently that's supposed to be what happened there anyway. So I kind of saw a spirit that's supposed to have been there, when I wasn't thinking about the spirit being there.
I mean, I know I just mentioned the arm thing, and I know I was on an investigation, but there are times during the investigation you think, okay, let's see what's going to happen. You do get naturally carried away with talking to somebody next to you, and your mind goes off while you're there. And we do say during our events, before we actually get on with the investigation, don't sit there concentrating, staring into a dark, blackened wall, expecting a coach and 4 horses to walk through it, because you'll have a negative effect of what you're trying to achieve. If you can relax, by all means, talk amongst yourselves, whisper, absorb the atmosphere, you'll get a lot more things happening, you'll experience more.
Do you think, again, this is going on, I've obviously with a lot of the martial arts and stuff I've done, I do a lot of meditation, or have done a lot of meditation in the past, and you kind of, you learn to empty your mind of everything, and it's kind of almost, when people say, empty your mind, it's very difficult to empty your mind, especially without, sort of kind of years of training to actually know how to clear your mind, because if you think of nothing, in itself, nothing is something, because you're kind of concentrating on nothing, which means you're not clearing your mind. And I think you're right, it's only that point when you don't really know your mind's clear, and let's face it, it's clear when you don't have to think about what you're doing. I mean, we must have all been at that point where you've driven a car, and it's the same route and then all of a sudden you'll come home one night and you think, I actually don't remember that drive, or a good 2-3 minutes of that drive. Clearly you were doing it, but you've done it so often, and unless something happened, an emergency, you probably, you obviously would have snapped into it and made your evasive movement. But is that the time when you can see the dead? Because there's lots of things where people see people in cars. I mean, there's a famous photograph of that lady sitting in a car. She looks like she's having a whale of a time, but there's an old geezer in the back who